What is going on, Beamer fans? Welcome back to Beamer Review. For today's video, we're going to be doing a GPS battle. We are going to be doing a battle between our one and only BMW Maps, Apple Maps, and also against the two big ones, Google Maps and WAZE. So definitely stay tuned for the whole thing so we can see which one gets the top spot. If this is your first time on this channel, we go over every single hidden tip and trick and feature in the BMW book. So if you have a BMW and you want to learn everything there is to know about it, subscribe to the channel because we put out content every single week. Before we get started, we did want to mention these really cool BMW key fob covers. The links for these are right down below. They are currently only for US shipping. If you were looking for a brand new BMW key fob cover, only for the new BMW key fobs, again, the links for those are below. Or if you were looking for BMW floor mats, the links for those are also below. So definitely check that out at the end of the video. Without further ado, let's go ahead and see which one is the best GPS to use in your BMW. For this video, we're gonna be going over each of the 4 different GPSs. We're gonna be going over the pros and the cons of each one. And then finally, at the end of the video, we're gonna be seeing which one I think is the best one and what I think you should use given the situation that you're in. So let's go ahead and get started. So in no particular order, we're gonna be going over each 4. Let's go ahead and start with our Apple Maps because it is located right over here. So now each GPS is gonna have its pros and its cons. With Apple Maps, the pros and the cons with Apple Maps is that if you do have Apple CarPlay, you can get your Apple CarPlay to pop up here if you have a newer BMW. If you have an older BMW, more likely than not, you're only gonna see the arrows for your next turn gonna pop up here if you're using Apple Maps. So that is one huge benefit with Apple Maps, is the fact that you can have it pop up here. Again, if you have a new BMW, if you have an older one, again, as mentioned, you're only gonna see the arrows. Cons of Apple Maps. I will say that Apple Maps is not the best GPS in the world, but the reasons why I do not like Apple Maps is mainly because you can't get alerts like you can with WAZE, such as potholes or even speed traps. This is probably gonna be the one that I use the least. It is cool that it is integrated with Siri. That is also a benefit for it, but I do believe that this is not a really good consistent map in terms of finding the best route in traffic situations and whatnot. That is going to be our Apple Maps. Our next one that we have here is going to be Google Maps. So let's go over Google Maps. So now we are in Google Maps. Google Maps also has its pros and its cons. First off, starting with the cons, is that you can't have your Google Map pop up here like you can with Apple Maps. The reason being is because we are in CarPlay. I will say from my experience, Google Maps is gonna be the most consistent one. If I had to pick a go-to GPS app that I could rely on every single day to get me wherever I wanted to go, and also ones for long trips, I will be choosing Google Maps. Google Maps is very, very consistent. They do stay up to date with all the latest road changes or exit signs. And I've also found Google Maps to be very consistent whenever I get to my specific destination as well. Another thing that I love about Google Maps is that you can actually see like things like the buildings and all. And Google Maps is also starting to integrate things like the alerts, just like WAZE has as well. So you can use this guy right here to send in things like a speed trap. Speed trap should be more on this side because that's the one we use the most. But anyways, but yes, Google Maps is starting to get alerts like WAZE, which is very, very nice. And again, just to repeat myself, Google Maps is the most consistent one for whenever I get to my final destination because it is very, very pinpoint accurate, whichever destination or house that I'm trying to get to whenever I arrive at the destination. Google Maps is my go-to most reliable one that I use for long trips, or if I'm going to a specific location where I'm not familiar with, or if I'm driving through downtown and the city, I prefer Google Maps the best. Next up, let's do WAZE right over here. Now, if I had to choose a GPS map that I use the most, I will say that it is WAZE. But when I say that it is a GPS app that I use the most, I specifically don't actually use it for a destination. WAZE I do keep in the background probably 90% of the time that I'm driving my car. I will say that WAZE has the best alerts. I also actually have WAZE to be set up as an iPhone automation. If you all wanted to see a video on how to set that up, I have it so that in my iPhone, every time my phone connects to CarPlay, WAZE will pop up all by itself. It is a automation. If you guys wanted a separate video on that, be sure to let me know and I'd be more than happy to do that. But yes, WAZE is a GPS that I keep in the background, but I don't use it for a GPS specifically whenever I'm trying to get to a destination. Reason being, one of the cons with WAZE that I have found is that it takes me through back roads that are just really, really annoying to get through. And I do feel that whenever we all use WAZE all at the same time, those same back roads that it is trying to take us through all become a traffic situation themselves. So WAZE as a GPS is not one that I found really, really consistent in terms of getting me to a destination at a specific time, because again, it does take take me through too many back roads. Biggest pros with WAZE is going to be the alerts. The alerts stay completely up to date. WAZE I love to keep in the background all the time, probably 90% of the time that I'm driving. I always keep WAZE on in the background. It has saved my life so many times. There was this one incident, it was really funny. I was driving down the highway and the WAZE told me that there was a object or a hazard on the road. And then as 2 minutes go by, I'm driving on the highway in the lane and I happen to see a giant baby carriage. Don't worry, there was no baby in it, but yes, there was a baby carriage on the highway and I was going at a good 80 miles per hour. WAZE gave me a good alert on that and it did get me out of the way. So yes, those are my pros and cons with WAZE. I love the alerts, but I don't love it as an actual GPS to get me to a destination. So now let's go over our BMW navigation. So our BMW navigation is going to be right over here. There are pros and cons to the BMW navigation as well. We'll start with the cons for this one. I will say that just like Apple Maps, BMW maps are not very consistent as well. The BMW map will give me a time to get to my destination, but I have found that it is not very consistent with that time, with that arrival time. It does tend to overshoot your arrival time. So say for example, if the GPS says that you're gonna arrive at a destination at 5:30 p.m., more likely than not, you'll be there at a good 5:20 p.m. So the GPS does try to play it safe in that sense. I will say that the BMW GPS is not as powerful as the other three in terms of staying up to date and whatnot. But again, the biggest pro with BMW Maps is that you can control the functionality straight through your voice command, and the fact that it is fully integratable with your BMW dashboard and the head-up display right up there. So let's just go ahead and punch in a destination and I will show you all what I mean. If we were to go into here, if we were to go into our recent destinations, let's just say for example we're trying to get to this car wash, and then if we go into that, it does give us a few different routes that we can take. We're just gonna pick the recommended one. A couple things that I love about the BMW GPS. I do love this guy right over here, which lets you know how close you are getting to your final destination. It also gives these cool little orange lines right up here, letting you know that there's traffic along the way. Another thing that I love about BMW GPS is that I can just tell a voice command to turn this guy on and off. And now let's get to the real pros of this BMW map. If you have a new BMW, you're gonna get this cool guy right over here. So it's a front camera, AR view, whatever you want to call it. As I'm using this GPS, it can give me these really cool hologram arrows to let me know wherever I'm gonna go or when my next turn is about to approach. So that is one major benefit that you get with the BMW maps here. And also the real big one is gonna be this guy way up here. You can see that the actual map is right on the head-up display as well. So this right up here will let you know exactly how many feet you are away from your next turn. It also gives you a good view of the map along with which lane you should be in. A big one with BMW Maps is that whenever you are on the highway, BMW Maps is going to let you know which lane you should be in. And as you're switching lanes, you're going to see a arrow letting you know which lane to go into as your exit is approaching. BMW Maps, the biggest benefit is the integration here, and of course here. Situations where I would use BMW Maps, I would only use BMW Maps if I'm going to a location that I'm really familiar with. I would be most likely using it to get to a destination such as my local grocery store, or even whenever I'm trying to go home. I think is one of those GPSs that are best to use if you are just lost in a small location not too far away from your house and you just quickly needed to get home. All that I usually do is just click on that one time and just say navigate me to home, and then all this stuff just pops up all by itself. Now I will say, even though BMW Maps can do some really cool things like pop up here and pop up there, I will say that even though this stuff looks really cool, it can be a little bit distracting and it will take attention away from the road itself. So definitely watch out for that. Even though this stuff looks really cool, it can be a little bit deceiving because then you have to look at that, you have to look at that, you have to look at your head-up display, and you have to look at cars in the front and in the back. So it's definitely a lot going on, and you can customize that to show whatever you want to show. What I usually do, my main setup whenever I'm using BMW Maps, is the head-up display that you see way up there. I do go into the controller here and move that down to reduced. So even though you can see the map way up there, it is not going to be in the way as much along with things like the highway. So I do keep that head-up display on reduced. Here I really don't need to see that screen, so that portion right there is usually set to music. So I do keep that portion set to music. I only need the GPS map to be right up there, so then that way I only need to look at here, and then I can keep my eyes on the road for cars. And whenever I need to, I can just use that reduced view for the head-up display. And that's all for the BMW maps there. So again, BMW maps I think are good to use if you're just trying to get to a familiar location that you're familiar with. But in terms of its actual functionality, things like alerts, it can't do alerts. It can show traffic, but again, traffic is not going to be the most up-to-date as well. Now let's go ahead and rank these 4 in order of worst to best. I will say coming in dead last, number 4 in my opinion is going to be our Apple Maps. Apple Maps, again, the coolest thing with Apple Maps was just the fact that you can see it here. I do believe that Apple Maps does come short of all the other functionalities such as alerts and traffic, and how it can be fully integrated with the head-up display. I have also found Apple Maps to be very inconsistent whenever I get to my final destination. It does still kind of take me through the main roads that may be loaded with traffic, so it is, I feel, the one that will get to my destination the slowest. Hence why I am ranking Apple Maps to be number 4. Number 3, I'm going to give that to BMW Maps. BMW Maps, again, the biggest thing about it is that I could use BMW Maps to be on my head-up display, which I do love. But again, the actual functionality for it, not the best with traffic, not the best with staying up to date, but it is a good one to use if you just quickly want to tap on your voice command and say navigate to home. So if I'm going to a place that I'm familiar with, such as a home, grocery store, or the gym, I would be using BMW Maps to just quickly punch in an address and get to wherever I want to go. Coming in at number 2, I'm going to give that to WAZE. WAZE, again, even though I'm ranking WAZE number 2, this is the GPS that I use the most, but I only use it for alerts. Again, I love WAZE for things like speed traps and potholes. Whoa, look at all those birds. I hope they on my car. Okay, we're good. WAZE is great for alerts, but I will say that WAZE is not very consistent with helping me get to my destination as efficiently as possible. It does take me through all these back roads, which is supposed to be helping you, but it just becomes more of a headache trying to take all these short turns here and there. And then before you know it, everyone else who is also using WAZE just happens to get all into a new traffic jam. Hence why I don't use WAZE for GPS itself, just for the alerts. Of course, at this point, we already know the number 1 overall best all-around GPS. I'm going to give that to Google Maps. People who have Androids, you are so lucky because you can get your Google Maps to pop up right there. Again, for many of us, we have Apple CarPlay. You can't do that with Apple CarPlay. So yes, everyone, Google Maps is what I think is the most convenient. It is my most reliable one if I'm going to a location that I'm really iffy about, one that I'm not familiar with. Google Maps is very reliable. It does a great job of taking me through the roads that are not the main roads that are full with traffic, but at the same time, it still takes me through these back roads that are moving very quickly, and it is very consistent with the arrival time that it gives you. Google Maps is just that. It is a good balance between taking those back roads and those main roads, but still prioritizing that arrival time. And I do believe that Google Maps is also the one that gives me the least headaches as well, because it is very consistent. I can rely on it. So yes, I am going to rank Google Maps to be number 1 out of all 4 GPSs. That is going to wrap it up for this video. If you all had any questions, write those down below. Definitely check out those links right down below. Let me know what you all think in order of what your favorite GPS maps is or are. Let me know which one you use the best, which one you prefer, or which different situations you all prefer to use each and every one. I am trying to catch up on all the different comments. There is a ton of them that I need to catch up on, but definitely feel free to fire away. I will do my best to get to you. Thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, comment down below. Thank you all for watching. I will see you all for the next one.